Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Brother Minister Cepeda, and if you are new to the channel, please visit my website at treeoflifeoutreach.com. This is a holistic ministry. It's holistic, which means I provide nourishment for your mind, your body, and your spirit. Now, I do this by uniquely merging and synthesizing philosophical consultations, ISSA certified fitness training, as well as clean-hearted spiritual teachings and practices. So check that out, familiarize yourself with the bio, be inspired by it, pass it along to someone else that you know can afford to be encouraged and have an added sense of hope. And even if the story is not for you with regards to the details, pass it along anyway to someone who can benefit from it, because at the end of the day, it's all about inspiration, okay? So thanks for tuning in today, and I am going to speak very briefly about loving children. Not children that are loving, because all children are loving up until a certain point in which they may have been influenced by society. But I'm talking about us and our need, our responsibility to love the children. And this means I'm talking about all children. Obviously, if you're focused on just loving your children, and your nieces, nephews, and young cousins and whatnot, if you extrapolate that out and do the math on it, you can see how that can not be the best route, because if you're raising yours to be loving and caring and respectful, honorable, hardworking, and all of this, but then you dump them off into the daycare or dump them off into school, take them to school, take them to daycare or whatnot, and no one else is doing this, and your kid is the only one who has these moral values, this moral compass, well, he's always swimming against the grain. And unfortunately, that's what's taking place in our society. So we have to extend beyond just loving our own children. That's easy to do. That doesn't take much. That's a given. In most cases, obviously, we know there are some out there who are abusive to children, but they probably not watching this video to begin with. So this is my call to encourage you guys to see the importance of raising, or of helping raise all the children. You know, there's an old saying that it takes a village, it takes an entire village to raise the child. Because what that is saying by proxy, for search for a better term, what it's also saying is, if it takes an entire village to raise that child, then it only takes one clown to ruin that child. This is why everybody has to be on board. All the men, all the women, all the children, all the elders, and what have you, we have to be on board. Because if it's just that one clown in the midst of that, they can influence that child and throw that child off course, and a child may never regain its natural and organic course and path in life. So we got to see the importance of this, and we got to see the importance of knowing that nowadays, once we grasp the importance of loving our children, I mean, we know this, but sometimes we don't really fully get this, or we get it, but we don't fully execute. Oftentimes, it's easy for us to think that we watched a movie with them, we took them to a ball game, we bought them, some shoes, some clothes, toys, whatever, and we oftentimes fall into the trap of thinking that that is what the kids see as love. oftentimes kids don't really, they appreciate those things, obviously, because they're kids, but they're not connecting the dots. They're not mature enough to connect the dots to realize you're doing these things out of love. So it doesn't equate to them. They want love, something they can feel. And they can't feel it, when you buy them an ice cream cone. They can feel the joy and the blissfulness of that, and you taking them to school or dressing them and buying them new stuff and whatnot. But they're looking for something that vastly supersedes that. They're looking for something they can feel, that twinkle in your eye, that sound in your voice, that special little in that hug, that special patience that it took when they were not behaving up to par or whatnot. Kids are looking for love. And oftentimes, we, as parents, we are found wanting in that department. And if we're honest with ourselves, we can admit that. Doesn't mean we're bad parents. Doesn't mean we're neglectful or unconcerned. It just means that over the generations, our parenting and the emphasis that we put on our parenting has diminished. Now, we take some responsibility for it. We take some responsibility for it indeed. But yet, at the same time, we can sit back and we take full responsibility for it. But we can also acknowledge the fact that some of it is not necessarily our fault. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's your fault. Fault and responsibility are two different things. Often, if it's someone else's fault that their parent was a bad person, that their pastor led them down the wrong path, that's not their fault. But it sure as heck is their responsibility to kind of pick up the pieces and see how they're going to make a life with that and move forward. So fault and responsibilities are two entirely different things. So it's our responsibility as parents to realize that even though we've been tricked into this high-paced, 24/7 dog-eat-dog culture, survival of the fittest, multitasking, both parents are working two full-time jobs, that's not our fault as parents. But it is our responsibility to find out how we're going to navigate this and still be the parents that we know we ought to be. Because again, kids aren't mature enough at those early stages to disseminate or to put together the fact that, oh, you bought them clothes, you took them to a game, y'all laughed at the ice cream place. They're not mature enough in their minds to associate that with true love. They're looking for love that they can feel. And as previously mentioned, that little special octave in your voice when you give them encouragement, when you say you love them, even if you discipline them. Kids are smarter than we think. It's often says that kids are the smartest among us, period. And once they are born, and all the education and the structure that society puts into them, that causes children to ultimately be dumbed down. So kids are smarter than we think. And they're not looking for that, we had a nice time at the movie. Yeah, they want to go to a movie. They're kids. But they need to hear that. They need to feel that. But in addition to you just putting them on above, say, okay, I love you, have a great day, and a kiss. if your heart wasn't really into that, then that just was a little you putting your lips on their face or their forehead. They didn't feel anything from that. And this is what moves kids. Something that we can give them that they can actually feel. Something that they can quantitatively feel. Because again, it takes a village to raise a child. But it only takes one goofball to ruin a child. So we have to be mindful of all these different tangibles and intangibles when it comes to all these different variables and all the nuances involved within those variables. We have to be mindful, particularly of these kids when they are toddlers, infants even. Infants and toddlers up to about 7 or 8 years of age. That's the shaping phase, that's the molding phase. The ancient teachings and even modern day science have come into agreement with that, with the fact that if you want me to tell you what kind of adult your child is going to be, then let me have at him, let me be with them, let me raise them for the first 7 years. So the first 7 to 8 years, and then I can tell you exactly how your child going to be for pretty much the rest of their days. Because the toddler up to the first 7 to 8 years, they are being shaped, they are being molded, and oftentimes people never break out of that mold. Your kid wants love, and it wants to do you and be you and imitate you in everything that they do. Everything. Just catch them when they're at that between those ages and let them see you walking around playing all the time with a limp. See, don't they start walking around all the time with a limp. Let them see you coughing every time you get ready to drink a cup of water. Watch they start coughing every time. From all these little bitty odd, weird things to all the most serious things. You using foul language. You being upset. You throwing things around. You mistreating people. They're going to imitate it all. So we have to be careful. We have to do a better job, guys, because once we extrapolate this out even further, we can see the importance of the fact that the kids are the future. Well, I just made reference to the fact that, well, you give me a kid until he's 7 years of age, 7 or 8 years of age, and then I'll give you that adult. I'll give you that adult from that point on. That's who they are. So we know this, so we can look at these 7, 8, and lesser age group and younger age group, and we can basically see what's coming for us. We don't have to wonder what kind of future we're going to have 20 years from now. Just look at the 5, 7, and 8-year-olds and the toddlers. That's telling you right there. So now, even though one can't change the destination overnight. You can't change the destination overnight. In other words, you can't change the destination that it takes you 15 years to get there and then change that overnight. But you can change course overnight. You can change direction. And just like everything else in society, being a parent, we all know it's hard. Yeah, it's easy to put on a smiley face and a happy face when you're laughing, when you're playing, when you're watching a movie, when they're taking their first steps and all of this. But that's not where the rubber meets the road, people, and we all know that. The rubber meets the road when Jimmy goes to school, or Jimmy goes to relative's house and almost pulled grandma's hair out of her head. Intentionally tried to push granddad down a flight of stairs. Went to school and misbehaved. Start stealing out your pocketbook at the age of 7 and 8. Start using foul language. This is where the rubber meets the road. So if you want to make sure that you're getting sound traction in a direct path that you want to be on, make sure you are doing what you need to do from infancy on through that 7 to 8 years of age. And at 7 to 8 years of age, you can almost, not 100%, you can almost take your foot off the pedal. Because it's going to be so instilled with them, no, that's bad behavior. That's not who I am. Working hard, that's what I do. Oh, that's being lazy over there. That's not me. I work hard for everything that I want. Because it's been instilled within them. And the same thing goes if you have instilled a bunch of baloney. So either way, once they hit that 7 to 8 years of age, whether they're in a situation that's primarily negative and dysfunctional, if that's what they were seeing and exposed to and imprinted on them, then there you have it. If there was no one saying, hey, look, this is negative, that's sad, this happened, but let me explain it to you. Sometimes negative things happen. Sometimes sad things happen. That's not the way life is. If no one's there and they're just flooding that child with a bunch of negativity, then you don't have to worry about what kind of adult that child is going to be. It's almost like if you're pouring salt or sugar into a cup. You can continue to pour that salt and that sugar in there if you just have to, or if you are in a negative environment and the people around you are dysfunctional and there's no way around it. You may be a good person going through bad times or what have you, but you can sit that kid down just like you, no matter how much sugar or salt you put in there. If you continue to pour water in there, the salt and that sugar is going to eventually become lesser and lesser to the vanishing point where it's not going to exist because you just kept pouring water in there. And you end up putting a gallon of salt in the 15 or 20, 30 gallons worth of water, and the salt didn't even exist by comparison. No, it had absolutely no effect. But if you're just going to steady pour salt in there, let him watch all kinds of silly TV programs, watch what he wants on YouTube, go over his friend's house, you're not really mindful of what he's learning over there, then there's a such thing called, the chickens coming home to roost. We don't want that. And again, if we're all honest, we can admit that basically, for the most part, not our fault, but our responsibility. The truth is, if we man up, if we can get out the sandbox, take off the training wheels, and man up, woman up, we can admit that we're not passing the real smell test when it comes to parenting. We're found wanting. We are literally found wanting. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to continue to not really deal with them from this template of real love? Because when you first held that child, there was a whole different level, a whole different experience of love that you had for that child. The very first time you held it. But then after time, through potty training, through going through what they call terrible twos. I call it terrific twos, but going through that phase in 3 and 5, and they're tearing stuff up, and you have to yell at them, and they don't have the attention span to sit there and be still the way you want them to, and all these things have just added up to the point to where that love that you had when you first held your child, if we're all honest, it's not there anymore. It's just doing the things that need to be done. I have to buy them clothes, I have to take them to the movie, I have to make them laugh. There's no love in there's no real love in that. And we all know this. So I'm calling you to the carpet and take a step back and take a deep breath and realize we have to love these children. And again, not just our children. Because if you're just loving your children and you're not taking time out to become an activist so far as when you see little Timmy doing something or little Jamal doing something that you feel is not becoming for a child, if you just let that go and you don't try to say something to Timmy right there on the spot, something appropriate, something encouraging, with this template of love being at the forefront, if you don't seek to say something to your neighbor about the way you saw his child behave, and you take that approach of, hey, that's their kids. No, don't do that. Because those are the same kids that's going to grow up and be surrounded little Timmy and little Jamal when they're the only one who know what it means to be, to have honor, integrity, faith, hope, authenticity. They're the only one that know that. And that's what you did. You set little Timmy up and little Jamal up to fail because you didn't care enough about the kids that was around him. So you built him up and threw him in the fire against a whole bunch of kids who were basically just empty shells. So again, we don't have to look at what kind of society. I wonder what the world gonna be like 15, 20 years from now. You don't have to play that game. Go to the daycare. Go to the park. Walk around in the grocery stores and see all the little 2, 3, 5, 7 years of age and monitor their conduct. Just pay attention and you'll see what kind of society we're headed for if we don't pump the brakes and make a change. A change that's founded on love, concern, compassion, forthrightness. So this is the topic that I wanted to address with you guys. Kids are between these very tender ages, man, they're too easily influenced. They're very impressionable. And if you're teaching little Jamal all these different things, but then you take him to his dad's house and you just think, oh, well, that's dad. Dad ain't going to do nothing to him, nothing wrong to him. Maybe he won't do anything wrong to him. Not intentionally. But maybe dad does some things unintentionally. Sometimes you can harm a person by not doing anything. You don't have to do something to a person, particularly a child. You don't have to do something to a child to harm them. You could just fail to do something. Fail to instruct them that that's poor behavior. It's unacceptable, it's inexcusable, and it will not be tolerated. So if you just simply don't do that, you've harmed that child. So at some point, we got to take a stance, man. We got to realize how tender and how precious these children are and what they mean to us. What they mean to us. Because your kid and the kids in society is a reflection of us. All of our failures. All of our shortcomings. All of our missteps, bad behaviors. It's a reflection of us. So what are you going to do with it? You're just going to continue to sit in the middle and suck on it? Or again, are you going to get up out the sandbox, take off the training wheels, put your hard hat on, put your mouthpiece in, and go to work? I think there's enough of us on this planet to make a difference. I think there's enough of us who are wise enough, who are intelligent enough, and who's determined enough to say, you know what? The buck stops here. The buck stops here. I refuse to continue to contribute to this nonsense and leave this kind of society to my kids, to my grandkids. How selfish could you really be? And I'm not talking about you, I'm speaking in general. But how selfish could we be? We just gonna continue to let government start wars. We're just gonna continue to let the government allow global warming to go unchecked. We're gonna continue to just rack up all this debt, continue on with racism and all this nonsense. And this is the society. This is the society that you, as a responsible adult, as loving, caring, responsible adult, this is what you're going to leave to a child that you profess to love? How selfish is that? You don't necessarily love that child. You have an idea of loving that child. But if you love that child, you would want better for that child. And you would not just walk around here with your head in the sand, knowing that you've already been 15 or 25 or 45. You've already been that. And this is what you want to leave for them to experience when they're 15 and 25 and 45? You want to leave that for them? I think you're better than that. And I'm here sounding the alarm to say, hey, we have to do a better job. We see how YouTube, how the news, the daily news, social media, how all of this is raising our kids. We see this. And sometimes we just say, oh, that's just kids nowadays. And I call BS on that. I call BS on that. These are the kids nowadays because we have allowed it to be so. They are the kids, are they not? We are the adults, are we not? So then we have no legitimacy in that statement, oh, that's just the kids, that's just what they do nowadays. Well, if you're going to tell that, then tell the whole truth. It's just what they do nowadays because we, as watered down, paper tiger type of parents, have allowed. We've given our consent to it. We've given our consent to it, either willfully or we've done it willfully or we've assumed that position by default. Now you're gonna leave this junk to your kids, or are we gonna do better with all kids? The future is out there walking around on the playground. How many times have you walked through the store or walked through the school and some 12-year-old who's already been scarred and mistreated and have already been shaped and molded by YouTube, sometimes bad parenting directly, from social media, social bullying, literal physical bullying. They've already been shaped and molded. So you walk through and they're 12 years of age, you sitting around here 40-something, 50-something, and they look at you like they want to take you down. How many times have you walked through the store and saw some kids even younger than that, 5, 7, mouthy, looking at you as if they want to take you down? So I say, like John Legend, guys, the future started yesterday, so we already late. We don't have no time to be toying around with this anymore. Do what you can do. Get involved in your community. Get involved. If you see something, then, hey, you can get a YouTube channel. You can pass out cards or just go to the parent-teacher meeting and come up with ideas, suggestions, and recommendations. Just thoughts that may spark someone else to have a thought that could lead to increase in our parenting skills. This is our responsibility. And I was dealing with a client about 2 weeks ago, and she was a young girl, 21 years of age, having her first child, excited. She was in extreme melancholy. She came in for a philosophical consultation, and she was going through extreme melancholy. She was totally happy and elated that she was pregnant, and she was at that exact same moment saddened, concerned, and worried. Like, what has she done? Look at what kind of society her child is being born into. So I commended her on having the forward enough thinking to see what society has planned for these kids and what these kids are going through and the kind of future that these kids are building. But I also encouraged her to let her know that it's a setup. You're being set up, Tawana. You're being set up to make a great step up. You're being set up to make a great step up. Like Tom Brady, when he was down 24 points at halftime, 24 points going into the third quarter. Boy, if you can pull that off, that's one heck of a step up. So your child is being born into this situation, these circumstances, these days and times. It's an opportunity for you to turn up your parenting skills, to have that child do that Tom Brady in life, to be a difference maker. And it starts by you realizing that with your own child and realizing it with all the other children all the other children along the way. Yeah, he's going to need some backbone and some reinforcements. So every chance you get, you don't have to be willy-nilly about it, unthoughtful and impractical. But when you have an intuition that says, you know what, I think his parents is receptive. I'm going to say something to them about something I saw that their child was doing that was out of line. And I'm going to also say something when the opportunity presents itself, when I see a kid doing something that's admirable. I'm going to see if I can let their parent know and say, man, look, I don't know what you guys are doing at the crib, but it is a great job. I saw 2 kids getting ready to fight, and he came over there and talked them out of fighting. What a beautiful job. So you can have that parent be encouraged to know that what they're doing is the right thing, it's paying off, and they can keep right on. And then, by you saying something to them, they may take up the initiative to go do it to the next parent, whether they see the next child doing something constructive or not so. But we have to get this, and we have to get it right. The future started yesterday. We're already late. This is why we're in this predicament now, because those who, basically our generation, if you're 40, 35, 50 or older, our generation, we dropped the baton. This is why we're in this state of affairs. So the only thing left for us to do is to pick up the baton and start going to work with our grandkids, the generation that's now infants, toddlers, and so forth. and even past that. Because there are some kids who do work themselves out of that programming, either on the positive end or the negative end. There are some kids who are raised up in all that negativity and all that mess and all them shenanigans, and they became, something happened where they supernaturally almost, if not literally, decided that they didn't want no more of it, and they changed for the better. They willed themselves. The Heavenly Father guided them, assisted them, and they became better people outside of the fact that they were raised into a bunch of nonsense. And then there are those on the opposite end of the pendulum who was raised up good, clean, wholesome. And once they hit them 7, 8 years of age, and it was shaped and molded into them, when they got 10, 11, and 12, they was influenced by family, friends, social media, what have you, and they fell off the tracks, got outside the box on the other end of the pendulum. So it's an ongoing process, but the most important phase are between infancy and 7 to 8 years of age. After that, we just go in and try and keep them on the positive track that they're already on, or try to encourage them to direct course if they're on a not so positive track. But either way, we've already been 25, 35, 45. And is this the path that we want to continue to leave to kids, man? Them kids didn't ask to come here. Them kids didn't ask to be here. You, from one way or another, from one instance or another, you planned a marriage, you had an accidental baby, you planned a baby, whatever. That was your choice. That was your decision. That child didn't have anything to do with that. So we owe it to that child. We owe it to ourselves to say, whether I'm living a great life or whether I'm living a life of shame, I'm going to do my best to let this child know what love is, what honor is, what compassion is, what dignity is, what it means to work hard. And I'm going to let them watch me, see me struggle to become better as a human being. Or are you just going to sit in the middle and suck on it? So in one hand lies salvation. In the other hand lies oblivion. Choose wisely. We can change ourselves. We can change ourselves. We can change ourselves for our kids. If you're not going to change for you, you cool being who you are. Whatever it is, you cool being this thug, you cool being this this Wall Street shrewd businessman who cuts the life blood of his competitors and leave them standing in the bankruptcy line. Whatever it is, maybe that's cool for you, and you would never change for you because it's cool for you. But then what about your kids? You could do it for them. You could change to becoming a better person for them. So let's pick up this mantle, man. Let's stop letting society and YouTube raise our kids. And I know it's hard. We all know it's hard. Usually both parents, a lot of cases, both parents are working 2 jobs. I don't think you heard me. I said oftentimes both parents are working 2 jobs. So you can't blame them. It's not their fault they couldn't spend time with Jamal or Timmy. They could just get him up, take him to the daycare, go work their 2 jobs, have a relative pick him up, from the daycare, go pick him up. Hopefully he's already eaten, put him to bed, and go start the rest. And by the time go start it all over again. By the time the weekend come, they too drained. They don't have no energy to really put into Timmy. So you can't. It's not their fault. This is what society has done to us as adults and as human beings. But even though it's not our fault, it is our responsibility to find out what we need to do to manage this situation, to navigate this situation, and ultimately overcome and transcend this situation. We can't just sit around and say, well, it's not my fault. I got to work all day. Well, shoot, what did you want me to do? What a cop-out. I'm a firm believer that where there is a will to do something, there's always going to be a way. And if there's not a way there, if that will is strong enough, you'll go out and you'll create a way. That's just the way this is, guys, when you want something bad enough. So again, I don't want to be redundant with these particular points in this issue, but if I was redundant and if I was repetitively redundant, I think it would be justified. Because the children are the lifeline, they're the lifeblood of this society, of the entire human race and the path that humans are going to be walking. So if that's the case, then who cares about being redundant? Perhaps that's what we need, a little bit of redundancy on this matter and this topic that's been stolen from us. And if we're all even that much more honest, we can admit that it's our fault that we're in this boat. We're the one that the government do these things to us and steady raise prices and trick our women into saying, you know, they want this and they want that and they don't want to be home. Played on their ego, and now they're out working, and guess what? By the way, now that you're out working, how about you stay out there working? Because we're gonna make it more and more difficult for men to be men. We're gonna attempt to emasculate them across the board. In their positions as head of the household, in their position as the breadwinner, in their position and all across the board. So we have an opportunity to do something. I say we stand up and get it done. If you're with me, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, check out the website, pass that story on. My contact information is up there if you know of anyone that's interested in those services or just would like to view the website and be encouraged. So I start every video by requesting that new viewers go to the website, and even if you are already a subscriber, still go to the website, because if you read that story, you get something different out of it every time, something constructive, something positive, something helpful, something insightful. So read it again and pass it on again. So that's how I begin every video, and then I end every video the same as well, which is 2 truths that I live by. The first one is, hey, I don't know all of y'all, but I do love all of y'all. That's number 1. Number 2 is, if you're feeling bad, this is the way I actually literally live my life. If you're feeling bad, and we all may have those moments, if you're feeling bad, go make somebody else feel good, and you'll feel better. And if you're already feeling good, and you go make somebody who's feeling bad feel good, then you'll go from feeling good to feeling phenomenal. Trust me. This is just how this thing works, guys. The powers that be know this, and they have been using this power against us in reverse. And so now everybody who, when they're feeling bad, when they're feeling discouraged, the first thing they do is go out and make somebody else feel bad. And they try and project it out to someone else. And society continues to go to hell in a handbasket with that approach. Don't fall for that. When you're feeling bad, I challenge you. Go make somebody else feel good. It could be a friend. It could be a stranger on the street. Once you see them feeling good, I guarantee you feel better. Instantaneously. Faster than instantaneously, and quicker than immediately. Sooner than right away. Okay? So that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Stay blessed. because you are blessed. And I look forward to putting forth some more videos here as soon as Heavenly Father makes it possible for me to do so. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. Bye.